Minahan.
Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you leading-edge astrology conversations through a journey of soul growth patterns connecting astrology's energetic cycles. Get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
And founder of Talk Cosmos, where we have insightful conversations to awaken consciousness. And today is July 9th. And we have our panel Archetypal Symbols, and it's all about the new Cancer moon, the new moon in Cancer. And our topic is going to be nurturing destiny. It really is a time to nurture the process of our own transformation. You know, it's leading to our destiny. And in Cancer, it's that nurturing quality, which we will discuss, focusing on ourselves as well as others, being our best friend, loving ourselves so that we can in turn love others. So archetypal symbols, we'll learn about that. And I will say that as panelists, we're straddling still a couple of energies, which will become more significant. And one of our panelists, computer, is straddling the universe. So she's going to come on audio like, but we'll still identify and give. So glad we have all these possibilities, right? Okay, now we're ready for archetypal symbols.
Synthesizing the current archetypal new moon energies through weaving symbol systems such as Sabian Symbols, Numerology, Mayan novel energy days, or even Tarot, connecting to the astrological data and concepts for planets and cosmos. This is your Archetypal Symbols panel.
I'm Sue Minahan, the founder of Talk Cosmos, an eclectic evolutionary astrologer, consultant, certified color energy life coach, vice president of the Washington State Astrological Association, member of Kepler Astrology Toastmaster Club, of a Dwarf Planet University diploma and AA with music degree. I love mythology, philosophizing, collaboration. I'm an artist, writer, a perpetual student of life.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Machette, a professional astrologer, intuitive, numerologist, and tarot reader. I'm a certified sacred healing counselor, providing nurturing, in-depth consultations for individuals and couples. I'm an author, blogger, speaker, and international Reiki master and teacher. I create safe space in which to explore the deeper patterns of your life, to clarify your current circumstances and help you find your best path forward.
And I'm Justin Crockett-Elzy, an archetypal astrologer, teacher, and author. I combine both Western ancient astrology and modern psychological astrology with Eastern Vedic astrology. And I specialize in predictive, electional, and karmic astrology for individuals and couples. I'm a certified aromatherapist, an essential oil specialist, and an herbalist, and I offer remedial modalities of plants for psychological life issues to empower clients with compassionate healing. I also do in-depth astrological research into arcane astrological concepts, focusing on the mystical, occult side of astrology.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift." And that's why it's called the present. Well, what fun! We're having a roulette chair. What is that little thing where you play different chairs? Musical chairs, that's it. Musical pictures for those for those people on podcasts. But Liz is here. She's in essence, and that's what's important. Hi, Liz.
Hi, it's good to be here. Yeah, my computer has a mind of its own, but I'm getting there. So I'll be joining you in on there soon, but I'll be on the phone for a moment.
Well, we're glad for that. And I think Justin and I know for myself, I can certainly testify that the electronics in the world seem to be really active, whether it's Sedna in Gemini, whether it's Pluto, they can't decide which fence it's on, Aquarius or Capricorn. It's so anyway. So hello and glad you're here. Hi, Justin.
Hey, hi, Liz and Sue. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Always. It's so great to have this teamwork. Well, here we have the slides. And for folks, you can get a hold of Liz at alightpath.com. And for Justin Crockett Elsie, it's his name, JustinCrockettElsie.com. And myself, Talk Cosmos. And of course, thank you for subscribing to our newsletter, which we're going to get an e-book out soon to help those people that are on the fence to grab it and keep in touch with us. And also for the people that get on the YouTube station, because then it's right there. It just reminds you here, now's the time. Let's talk about Cancer. As we see, now this is interesting because Liz can't see this, but Liz, we're talking about the element of water. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Justin, and I suppose I'll keep talking here because I did devise these slides with the help of my buddies, which I'm so glad about. But water does cover all the parts. It's the ocean that surrounds the earth, nourishes the sea life. It's the rain phases that circulate the waters to fresh water for our gardens and rivers. And then, of course, it's the rivers that actually move around Earth, nourishing our life. So powerful. Justin, yes?
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, and there's the frozen water, the icebergs, the glaciers, and and all the in-between, so.
Oh, boy. That's right. And more below than above. That's right. So more about the Cancer archetype. When we first started Talk Cosmos, there's some wonderful talks. I'm going to put them on YouTube that really bring forth. In fact, both Justin and Liz individually are on different talks during that time, along with a whole bunch of other astrologers, because it was about 2.5, 3 years that we were podcast before YouTube. Now we're both. But the fact is that the archetype of Cancer is so special. We process our emotional story. Justin, maybe you want to share some.
Well, thank you, because I am a Cancer. That's actually my sun sign. So, I always say that Cancer, and it's a cardinal sign that you actually have up here on the screen, and it's a very initiating, really the creative, very creative. We sometimes think of Leo's creative, but Cancer's is comes before Leo, and it creates, births that what is needed. And I always tell that Cancers are learning about healthy, grounded emotions in life. Cancer is about the emotions of self, whereas we look at Scorpio's emotions in relationship, and of course Pisces is a relation, the emotions of the collective and the subconscious. So Cancers are always learning. We're learning to have very grounded, healthy emotions in life.
And it's so valuable because the emotional body, our feelings, keeps getting drummed into me, is how we manifest things, how we feel. We might be thinking one story, but our emotional story is telling something different.
Right.
Aha, I think we're getting the real person. There's Liz.
And I might point out, Liz is actually a Capricorn, which is the opposite sign of Cancer. Liz is a Capricorn, the opposite side of Cancer. So there's a lesson in that the Cancers are learning from Capricorns.
Well, I will add, as she's getting prepared, the polarity is absolutely true. I keep being taught that they're about time, and that the Cancer is a processing time of past into present, whereas Capricorn is more essential, like now's the time, what's just to the core. Let's cut the story and just get to the fact. Whoop, we're having a little bit of audio fun. Liz, that was something.
Can you hear us, Liz?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, we were just talking about the Cancer archetype, and I pointed out that I'm a Cancer, you're a Capricorn, the opposite, and it's that there's the lesson that Cancers are learning from Capricorns, and as far as that energy goes, that polarity. Just your thoughts on that.
Well, and vice versa, that the Capricorn learns from the Cancer also.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is so true. And also we have our rising signs and moons and progressed moons. I think in all transparency, it might be too much transparency, but my progressed moon is in Cancer, just starting, and Liz's ascendant is in Cancer. So we all honestly can say we have a card in this story. But Justin, tell us about and I am learning how to say it,
Jyotish, right?
Jyotish.
Yeah.
Lunar mansions.
So, in the Vedic system, in the Eastern astrology system, there's what's called in Jyotish astrology. There's the lunar mansions. We also have them in the Western world as well. And this particular nakshatra, which the lunar mansion for this moon is Punarvasu nakshatra in the fourth pada. There's actually 4 sections to each one of the nakshatras or lunar mansions, and this particular one, ruling deity is Aditi, the great mother goddess. So this is really indicative of the theme that you have for today, the nurturing, the mothering. So Aditi is our deity that is watching over us today with this new moon in Cancer. And the ruling planet is Jupiter, which brings abundance. And I might also point out, because this particular lunar mansion straddles both Gemini and Cancer, and the fourth body is actually right into Cancer, that Mercury is an important planet for this new moon. As we're going to see a little bit later, with the wonderful Sabian Symbols that Liz put together, there's a really underlying theme of intellectualization. And so this is an emotional, intellectual, or thinking moon. And we see this in the nakshatra supporting the Sabian Symbols with this. So keywords being abundance and safety and prosperity with this new moon.
It is fascinating and exciting to realize this prism of metaphysical energies, consciousness, that all focus on the same event. It's like having a parade in a city and everybody attends it, but one person remembers that float and somebody else remembers the band and somebody else has a story with a friend or used to be part of it, and on and on. And it's like this new moon. They correlate, they tie together. So I'm very excited, not being a student of the Jyotish, Vedic, lunar mansion nakshatras. And I don't know if I put those in the right order, but they all relate. And yet it is very exciting to begin to feel more familiar. It's almost like in the news, hearing a story about another part of the world. And at first it's so strange, but after a while you begin to realize, hey, that's making sense because it's getting familiar. And that's a lot of Cancer too, isn't it? It's getting, feeling comfortable. I mean, well, that might be more Taurus, but being familiar. So thank you. We'll keep those words abundant, and we'll see too about Jupiter and Mercury. And that goes along with something intuitively that Liz was bringing up. So here we are, numerology, and Liz and I straddled which one. After talking to you, Justin, I added both because the sun and moon is actually 2-4, but it's right 4 minutes away from the next sign. So if, it's like, where do you begin adding and subtracting? So 2 and 4 add to 6. But if we round it off, which in Sabians we do, and many, many, many times astrologers do, that's how they refer to a degree, it's 25. So we have 6 and 7. And 6 we had last month because that was Gemini also. But here for 7, all these wonderful things that Liz came up with that one could find too, but you're both in. Yeah.
Well, and also the ascendant was at 7 degrees in the part of fortune, and there's another Arabic part, but it's eluding me at this moment. But so the wise, intuitive, spiritual nature of the number 7, and very intellectual, always seeking knowledge,
analyzing things. Do you guys want to add anything to that?
Well, the 7 days of the week, the colors of the rainbow, the visible planets, and I added the chakras. We have 7 chakras. If we're talking mysticism, we can't be all tables and chairs. We've got to be a little bit of like, why do you have a table and chair?
Well, and I like how, again, we're really looking at this sort of Jupiter Mercury energy here, and Mercury being a part of this emotions, which Liz used the word intellect or intellectual, and 7 is the number out of time. There's it's the number of the mystic, and it wants to know. It's a Gemini Cancerian energy. It wants to know, it wants to learn, and there's a strong emotion tied with both of these numbers, so
this is exciting. So going to the tarot cards, I added both Gemini, the lovers, 2 + 6, and Cancer 7, the chariot, 2 + 5. They're distinctly different. But like the crab, I realized, of the zodiac Cancer sign, the crab, I remember Rick Levine always tells that, and it's an analogy that perhaps is well said, but it sticks in my brain, that a crab lives in the changing, ebbing tide, the waters flushing in and flushing out, like the cycle of our emotions, like the phases of the moon. That's how I relate it. So this was really another powerful punchline to go, hey, let's do both, and both, rather than either or, which is increasingly the message of the universe. So 6, as last time, the Gemini, it's 2, the twins, 2 paths, crossroads, choice, relationships, which again segues into many factors that are coming up.
Right,
so
and the crabs
7.
are on the bottom of the ocean, scavenging waste, so to speak.
yeah, and
Recycling.
right, and crabs actually live many times on the edge. That's why you always see them on the beach. So not only do they breathe there, but they are also, as you pointed, in the ocean. So they straddle both land and water as far as an animal goes.
Oh, that is so great. Well, 7 for the chariot. There's so much to see in these pictures, at least are the weight pictures, which have come down. And often I put in some alternative one. But this is so full of analogies and metaphors, which we won't get all into, but they have the 2 sphinx of varying colors, which have a lot to do with internal and external when you read about the black and the white, and also as far as the receptive and assertive, often related to as feminine or masculine, but we're re-identifying all these energy consciousness. But nevertheless, it's where this one person, of course, you two know this so well, but is going forward, but it's not an easy chore. Imagine having 2 sphinxes that you're going forth on, but through the conflicts, you're brave and you have willpower and you do it. That's pretty exciting.
Yes, and it's a lot about balance, the yin and the yang, and all that balance there.
Yep.
Well, that's relationship too. I just love this. It's like one feeds and reflects, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know this is going to take more time from our part, but we'll keep leading on. The sphinxes, I saw this. Now, one, male, female, as I had said, it's that yin and the yang, as you've said, Liz, and the assertive and receptive parts of our nature. But there was a riddle, from what I understand, if this is correct, that was asked. And the answer was that they were above all things triumph in the mind. That goes back to the idea of the communication and Jupiterian emphasis that you're suggesting or putting forth with the Jyotish. It could be. I mean, I'm thinking thoughts and concepts, right? But the question was, what is a creature with one voice, with 4 feet in the morning, 2 feet in the afternoon, and 3 at night? Realizing this is all symbolic. And the answer is humans. who crawls on the fours as a baby, walks on 2 feet as an adult, and needs a walking cane when old. And I'm thinking, well, I guess we need some help. And that's where relationships come in. So let's talk Sabians, shall we?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. They were created first in 1925 by a clairvoyant, Elsie Wheeler, and astrologer Mark Edmund Jones. There's one for every single degree. So looking at this chart, Eastern chart, which is at 2:32 p.m. on the 17th of June, and I want to say 2 hours, less than 2 hours, like an hour and a half later, the nodes are going to change. But that's next week with Kay Taylor, the OPA president. He's going to talk about that. So here we have at this moment for the nation, a Scorpio ascendant, 7 degrees and 7 seconds. Talk about that 7.
7-7.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's on 17 July. 17 July.
Oh,
17 July.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the 7th
you.
month. So I mean,
Oh.
you're getting some more 7s there. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's really interesting how things mesh and correlate to each other. And the Chariot being the 7th trump or the 7th card, you know, is the Cancer card. So it's like really cool how all these intertwine, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like a mosaic that keeps getting extra pieces that really just are part of the whole, well, like the elephant, the tail, and the, you know, all the parts. Okay. So with Sabians, they go earlier. There's a cycle. It's like, where did it come from? What is it actually existing? And then where is it going? And so it's a legacy of several. So here we have 3. I'll start off. Scorpio 6 is a gold rush. Tears men away from their soil, their native soil. It's a passionate search for new values and promising more. And the key word is avidity. It's a feeling of enthusiasm, willingness, and eagerness. That's a Toastmaster word for sure, avidity. That's a new one for me. So
absolutely. And just to remind the audience that we do the degree before, the degree of, and the degree after. So it's kind of like the past, present, and future, so to speak, or what's coming, the now, and what's we're headed to. So now Scorpio 7, deep sea divers. The will to explore the hidden depths of all experiences and search for primordial causes. And the keyword is depth realizations, roots of consciousness. So deep diving into our inner selves, so to speak.
Wow. And then the Scorpio 8 degrees is a calm lake bathed in moonlight, and the keynote is a quiet openness to higher inspiration. Keyword being coincidence in activity or dormancy.
Fascinating. So where we're activating ourself out into our life every day, the ascendant, that eastern point where the horizon met the moment, it's like it's still, it's, if I just look at this, it's like an enthusiastic search of new values for abundancy. There goes the Jupiter. But Scorpio still is like we're digging deep, and the nodes at this moment are still at the very last degree of Scorpio, at 0 degrees Scorpio. But yet it's peaceful. It's like maybe holding our internal sense that we can understand, right? Because I think, Justin, you were mentioning how anything's of meaning, psychicness, needs that calm, that stillness to perceive. Right. Okay.
Well, and all 3 of them together, it's like there's like a carrot dangled in front of you of like, here's this opportunity, but wait, dig deep within yourself, or like investigate to see if it's really true, and maybe wait overnight, because during the evening time when it's the moon's out or it's dark, it could change the whole perspective.
Yeah. And Liz, not Liz, but Sue, you pointed out the nodes. You know, that is actually something going on in the background. It's about ready to change. You know, we're having one door close, another open. And it's interesting that 0 degree Scorpio is all about going beyond, and needing to just take it all in and going beyond with experience in life.
Yep, it's like wait and see, here we go. So there is our chart. Oh, here's the next one. This is the
Midheaven.
MC. Did I miss one? Let me see here for a sec. Sorry about that. No, that was the ascendant. Okay, it's always a matter of which, because we don't have them on the same slide. Yes, so we have the midheaven. That's how we're, anyway, that is 13 Leo, and there is Mercury right smack dab next to it. Let's see what that one is. Again, before, during, and after, but this time we're going to go even further back because Mercury is right there at the midheaven, 1 degree. So 11, Leo, children play on a swing hanging from branches of a huge oak tree, and it's the power of tradition, that swinging chair, and it's sheltering the beginnings of self-expression, but it's spontaneous and activity of innocent mind. So let's do 12, Liz.
Okay. An evening party of adults on a lawn illuminated by fancy lanterns. Group relaxation is fashionable surroundings as an escape from the work routine. Sophistication.
And Justin?
Yeah, and the 13 is an old sea captain rocking himself on the porch of his cottage. And the keynote here is the quieted mind's recollection of crisis and joys long past. And the keyword is quiet recollection.
So the next, now, it was 13. So in a sense, we're going onward here because 14 and 15, it's all sun. These are in Leo. It's sun, even though the moon is in Cancer, but it's the sun and the moon together. So it's really another kind of signature pumping forward. It says a human soul seeking opportunities for outward manifestation. That's so much. And it's right near that middle point of the 30 degrees. So it is really seeking to get that full moon experience at 15, you could say. And it's yearning for self-actualization. And the 15, Justin, if you want to, or Liz, go ahead.
Go ahead, Liz.
A pageant with its spectacular floats moves along a street crowded with cheering people. The more or less sensational release of energies in a form dramatizing the unconsciousness aspirations of man's primitive and instinctual nature.
So Justin, we need to take a break, but we want to conclude this part of our Sabians. Can you, we'll wrap.
Yeah, I just feel, again, this kind of goes to what I was saying in the beginning, and Liz alluded to this, the intellectualization of this new moon, this emotional new moon, and that's a really great creative Mercury. It's spontaneous activity and ideas, and I think this really, it's all about outward expansion and movement right now with the ascendant and the midheavens.
That is so great. Yeah, I see these words: spontaneous, sophistication, quiet recollection, and then just the pageant. So it's that whole energy, and similar to the parade I was talking about. Liz, do you have a word?
It's like take a time out, so to speak, to not just work, but like to relax, so you can think of it like the carrot dangling in front of you. Like, think of it in all the perspectives, not just the work perspective, but out enjoying a parade, or by the lake, or it's like sit down on your porch and rock in a chair. It's like bring it all in and really work through the whole 360 degrees of it, not just, this is the opportunity, should I go for that right now? It's like, think of everything involved.
Oh, good. We will return. This is Archetypal Symbols with the Cancer new moon, which I have Justin Crockett-Elsie and Elizabeth Mouchette and myself, Sue Minahan. Come back, enjoy. You have a couple of moments to grab something, and we'll continue about our astrological vision board journey. Thank you.
While we
take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. Currently, we are in the period of Cancer. By leaving a cycle based on connecting mental communication to the external, the energy of Cancer involves emotions, which create our personal story through our emotional associations and attachments. As a cardinal water sign that is nurturing, Cancer needs to process emotions in one's own internal rhythm of cycles in order to complete an evolution.
This is Martha Norwalk, every Sunday morning beginning at 9 a.m. Thanks in part to Dr. Nels Rasmussen at healingministryforanimals.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, July 16th, it's Behavior Training and Healing Sunday with me, and Talk with Your Animals or Human Loved Ones on this side or the other, and Personal Awareness Coaching with Natasha Venter. Hope you can join us and plan to call in with your questions for either one of us or a personal reading with Natasha. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings you leading-edge astrological conversations with hour-long programs each week on KKNW. The show goes live every Sunday from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on Facebook and YouTube, along with daily chats throughout the week on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel. While you're there, make sure you click like and subscribe buttons so you can get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or, if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. So, grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
There's a reason they invented the internet. It's called 1150kknw.com.
Hello again. Here we are. Well, let's see. What do we have for the next slide? Because I know we have half an hour and we have a ton of stuff. Because it's also part of the puzzle. Like, let's finish this puzzle. So we have the sun and the moon. Ta-da. Center stage. No more. This is the leading characters on the stage. So Cancer 23. Now, remember, folks, we go before, during, and after, or present and future, however you see life. Cancer 23, just before that 24, the meeting of a literary society. Boy, there goes that communication. It's objective, critical approach to the common factors in our culture and its psychological problems. It's intellectualization, just what you were speaking of, Justin. Go ahead, Liz, on 24.
A woman and two men castaways on a small island of the South Seas. The localization of complex inner potentialities in harmonic and concrete relationships, interdependence.
Yeah, focalization. It gets tiny. Yep. And go ahead. What did I do?
Go to the next one.
Okay. Okay, I'll do it again. A willful man is overshadowed by a descendant of superior power. That's 25. That's where it's rounded off to, which is holding. The response of spiritual forces to the integration of personality through positive, willful endeavors. Justin, do you want to do 26?
Sure. So 26 is guests are reading in a library of a luxurious home. Keynote is the transference of social privilege to the level of intellectual enjoyment. So here we have standards of information is a key word.
And why I added extra Sabians is because like the sun and moon is at 2456. They're so close to the next degree that I just added extra ones in this time because it just felt the right way. So
right, kind of completed the story, right, Liz?
Right. It felt like because I started to not do that, but then it kept bugging me. So I just added it in because it felt
I love
like
it. I love it.
I didn't. It was like something.
Well, looking at it, though, it is, what was that last one? It was all about abundance of information. So we have information, and it also goes back to that Jupiter idea. And I will say, it might be a little early here, but Mercury and Jupiter, our thoughts, our communication with the big vision, the big picture, are at are wanting to work together. They're square. So it's really another signature of this whole chart. But here we have, and I have many slides. I am not trying to pack them all into one. So this particular one shows where for the Eastern chart, which is at 232, that it's up in the 9th house at 24, just at the last degree, of 24. Right. I'm going to 25.
Can I point out something? As we were talking about this, I started looking at the aspects of this and noticing that this new moon is squaring the ascendant and descendant, and then of course
we'll get there. We'll get there. Justin.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
that's getting there. Yeah, it's so hard to know. No, it's perfect. So let's just tell folks 25, we've rounded it off. Cancer, new moon, the time zones. It's going to be at universal time, 6:32 in the evening. London, an hour later at 7:30. That should be 7:32. I goofed on these. I apologize. It's all 6. It's 32 because I used a different slide. But here on the States and Canada, it's 2:32 in the afternoon, and in Washington in the morning, 11:32. And Hawaii, of course, 8:32. So, and the chart itself is locomotive again, exactly the same as the other, although Pluto's just moving backwards about maybe part of a degree. And the difference is, though, exactly that you brought up, Justin. It is that grand square. Yeah. With the nodes and the new moon. It's powerful. Yeah. So. And here the highlights, one highlight to remember as we begin talking about all the aspects that we'll be discussing, which you already brought up, which I'm really just to preface a little bit about. The moon is still out of bounds. It's at 26 declination, which is the same as latitude. And that's like two and a half. Well, it's 23 and a half usually. So that's pretty significant, 2.5 degrees out. But it is that grand square that is just really squaring us in the face. And to remember, though, when we look at the chart next and start this open conversation, that the lunar nodes, which are right that it's squaring, are in 2 hours later going to shift to, in reverse, the next signs of Aries and Taurus.
Libra.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and here it is. And the rulers, and this is what we'll talk about next week with Kay Taylor, that about this new nodes. But just to mention that Venus is still active, but changing from the north node to the south, and Mars is still active, but instead of co-ruling, Scorpio is taking the lead with Aries. And for the plot to thicken, Venus, which is really engaged here, is going to go retrograde in 5 days. So she's very slow. She's very deliberate. So here we have that chart. Justin,
for those that don't know, that Sue was talking about the rulers of the nodes, just in case people weren't
thank
sure.
You. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Justin, what were you thinking?
Well, no, I was, I know we're going to talk about this sun and moon that is squaring the nodes. And I thought was interesting that's also giving some information of the story there about that is looking at that Mercury is squaring the ascendant and descendant. So the planet of, this is an emotional, intellectual moon, and it's having to restructure something in order to move forward. And we see that not only with the sun and moon squaring the nodes, but also Mercury squaring the ascendant and descendant. And then when we look at Mars, which is where we want to take action, it's opposing Saturn. There's a Mars-Saturn opposition here. So there's sort of this, before we do move forward here with abundance and everything, we need to intellectualize or restructure something in order for us to accomplish something here. And I'm just curious what you think about that, Liz.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. And with the moon out of bounds, and we're in the sign of Cancer, which the moon rules the sign of Cancer, that our emotions could be out of bounds a little bit, or there could be things going on a little bit that I would just say be patient with yourself, be patient with others, take a breath, count to 5, any little trick that things can be a little chaotic in that respect. But, and it's really interesting in this chart that the sun and moon, there's no other planets right next to them, because for the last several months, there's been another planet really, really close to them. So, and some astrologers wouldn't include the nodes in the grand square, so they would just use that opposition to Pluto. And so on the Cancer part, which we talked about a little bit earlier, of the water and the flow and the emotional and the depths, and Pluto is about the depths, the underworld, the underground. So it's like it's a good time to work on any kind of personal issue that needs to be released or worked on or let go of, find some resolution with, or whatever, to find some equilibrium. It doesn't mean it totally goes away.
Very interesting. This brings up in my mind to remind people when we differentiate focuses of astrology, because there is the traditional but in evolutionary, which I am, regardless of all my eclectic traveling, because I'm doing vibrational and I love learning about sex, and that's SECTS. Thank you, folks. North above or below the horizon, the profections, the year that you were born in. There's so much powerful, beautiful, wonderful information, or horary, et cetera, et cetera. It's a huge field of astrology. But nonetheless, I remember evolutionary, which means that Pluto, our transformational planet, dwarf planet, but still transformational, is the key, because we change. We want soul growth to how we came into this world. And the nodes represents that collective story that we're experiencing. And here, when it changes on a collective scale, it's the whole world. It's everybody, because we were born with our own during our lifetime. It happens to be a return for me. I was born during this particular cycle of South Node Libra and North Node Aries, but that's just during certain years, and 8 years later, throughout whatever cycle it goes. But the point, which we will discuss more next week too, but meaning that we're taking what isn't working in our South Node, and in this case, Pluto is really emphasizing the South Node. Where is it in relationships that it ain't working? And in this case, because we want to integrate the North Node. So I really appreciate, Liz, because it spurred me to educate and to declare a little bit more, because astrology is, sometimes it's so easy for me to speak in quick terms rather than elaborate really what was the backbone of something, because this is powerful. It by itself ties in. I wonder what the next slide is.
Well, and this is a powerful new moon, because you're talking about EA astrology, evolutionary astrology, and Pluto. You look to the opposite. The polarity point is the sun and the moon this time. So, it's like the moon is darkness and the sun is the daylight. And so this yin and yang and balance. So it's like looking at whatever is deep within or deep down with any situation, I think will help bring resolution to everything.
It's so true. Go ahead.
No, and Sue and Liz, I'm thinking also though that when we look to a solution here, we look to Mercury here, because as you just had on that prior slide, Sue, that Mercury is squaring the Mercury at the midheaven, which is what we're trying to accomplish here, is squaring Jupiter, and it's also squaring the ascendant and descendant, because Jupiter is right there. So I think that's a little bit, it goes back to our intellectualization and thinking, and how we are, our thoughts, right? We create our own reality here. Our thoughts are something to pay attention to with our emotions.
It seems that this whole is a transpiring as one plateau, incremental plateau in this story of events, because you brought up, I'm so glad you brought up that Mercury is squaring both the how we interact and how others are interacting in our life with the ascendant, descendant. But the fact that Venus is soon, in 5 days after this, going retrograde and will become the next Venus star point, which when I am remembering everything about Venus star points, it's that embodying the emotional stories, which is Cancer, but also the body of it, not just in the head. So it's like, and with Pluto there, it's really shoving that factor to us to engage in when we're pursuing our direction.
Well, and with the sun and this new moon in the 9th house, just briefly what the 9th house is, and this is, of course, for the East Coast chart, and you could cast it for where you're at, but if you live in the United States, you could use the East Coast or where you live, either one or both. But it's about a higher mind. It's about spirituality, education, higher education. What is higher education? Could it just be that I need to read one book or take a 2-day class or a 3-hour class? I mean, it could be any number of things. It could just be taking time out. It could be many things. So it could be another country. You could read or watch a movie on another country. So there's many ways to use it.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up about the house, Liz, because when we look at this on the West Coast, it's in the 10th house. So we see actually this whole new moon in this area of the chart that's about sort of this almost like Sue brought in the concept of full moon. There's this where we're going. That midheaven's very important. It's right there between the 9th to 10th, and the midheavens being involved in this new moon for the United States. And so it's sort of that outward expansion or outward growth for self-actualization that's sort of underlying everything here.
What a beautiful story. I'm focusing too on that aspect you brought up, Justin, well, both of yours, but about Mars, our motive, our drive, that's in opposition, working with Saturn, which is the core of what's essential. There's so many dynamics here, and it's very good to have this thought also, Liz. I mean, I'm tying together. I'm trying to thread this to say why I'm thinking this so that people will understand why I'm saying it. But to sit back and to some of those Sabian words, to reflect in the long run, to hold on, to let it cook, let it perk, notice.
And then that Mercury, to me, it's like super important because we could really have, and it's in Leo, it's some heartfelt conversations. But I would say to be cautious because it is square that Jupiter, that we could unleash something maybe that's been there that's caused a sad heart. And so, like, to be cautious how you communicate.
Oh, that's such a Cancerian kind thing to nurture and remind us. and we have to live with ourselves regardless. So this is good. Well, there was another aspect that, Liz, you mentioned, and it's a finger of God. And what it is I've written here, 2 planets are sextile at 60 degrees, which means they're flowing. It's a harmonious flow. But they are both quincunx, which is 150 degrees, to an apex planet, which is adjustment. It's a push-pull. Alan Clay keeps saying push-pull, push-pull. And I've been learning, even with vibrational, that it takes time to learn this adjustment, that when you come in, it's something you need to learn. And people don't always learn it necessarily, but it is called a finger of God. It's a complex thing. And so here, Venus, that's going to go retrograde, it's stationary, just holding harness, because she is switching in 2 hours after this from giving emphasis to Taurus, taking the lead of self and preservation of survival in resources, to suddenly figuring out relationships as the South, so what are these relationships that she's worked out, or not she, I'm just using that, but that energy. And so it's complex. What do you think?
Yes,
We don't have
and
too much time.
the
Go ahead.
sextile planets are Pluto and Neptune, and I call those the handles, and they point to Venus. So, Pluto and Neptune are both outer planets, and so that's pretty interesting that they're pointing to a personal planet of Venus. So, to me, it feels like it's like a big energetic Pluto and Neptune working together. This energy of vision and dreams and emotion, and Neptune is like the ocean.
Yeah, dissolving, isn't it? Ocean.
And Pluto's the underworld,
Neptune.
and Cancer is about our emotions on a part of it. It's, and then the Venus of, how do we love ourselves? How do we love others? How do we, show that?
It's everything about those nodes coming up. Justin, what's your...
Oh, no, I agree. I don't really have anything to say about that.
Well, I was looking again to realize that meanwhile, Pluto, Pluto of transformation is still opposing, as we noticed, looking across, working with how to change our consciousness, ego, emotional consciousness that's now in this sensitive, nurturing Cancer. But at the same time, by doing that, it must be looking at our values and our everything about what Venus represents, connected to that ego of ourself, because it's in Leo. So I'm not sure with Neptune. Is Neptune in another?
Well, along those lines, you just mentioned values. Pluto's trining Uranus in Taurus. So, as you were talking about values, there's an easy flow of energy there between Pluto and Uranus right now. That's pretty powerful whenever Uranus trines Pluto.
It wants it right now. It wants sudden, like, let's wake up. I just read something
if we look at that, if I may just finish off with this thought here really quickly, that Mercury, that in spontaneous creative mind, is squaring Jupiter. And then we see in Taurus, and Pluto's trining Uranus in Taurus. So it's almost like if you got any new ideas for business or growth as far as Taurus energy goes right now, you got to really kind of rethink your Mercury and Leo there a little bit,
I'm just closing up with some of these slides here for
and
people. Go ahead.
Neptune is trying this new moon, so Pluto and Neptune, are pretty friendly this time at this point. Not that they're not friendly, but they're energetic, supportive energy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it feels like, and with Mercury, I said, take caution of how you spill your heart, but you could even have the courage maybe to tell somebody that you love them, that you've been so afraid to tell them that you love them. So that could work in a positive way. With that Jupiter might give you, and it's a square, it might give you that courage to express something that, is important to express.
And it's in the 7th house, isn't it, of others. So, we have a couple of minutes here, but sometimes I never know, are we going to get through the charts, but sometimes it's just good to chat. So after all this, a vision board, it's always very important in the summer. Well, they're all important, but this one is so just before the Leo that is of our actualization. But here with the nodes changing, it seems like a great time to get some intentions in store.
Yeah.
Yes. And, write your desires, work on that.
I wanted to ask you, do either one of you have anything? Justin, do you have a class coming up, or you have something special on your newsletter? I forgot to ask.
Yes, I do. Really quickly, and so that Liz can get something in. Yes, I'm actually doing a presentation, a talk on the astrology of mediums, mediumship, and death. And it's actually leading to a book project and research project on death charts.
So how does one hear this?
On my website.
Oh, okay. So one needs to
and then
subscribe.
Liz might have something. Liz.
Well, I'm doing consultations and working on my schedule for the fall. So
yeah, and with Talk Cosmos, we have Kay Taylor next week. And the week after that, I am giving a speech on OPA myself. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be here or there. So again, we're doing a lot of moving around in the tides, aren't we? I have the tides right behind me, see? Oh, it's such a treat. I just really love visiting with you both and learning so much and incorporating. So it's heart to mind. Thank you, everybody, and our wonderful audience. We love you much.
Thank you for joining us on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests connect soul growth patterns with the energetic cycles of astrology. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.